What up, everybody? Welcome to episode 4 of the Champion Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Don John, and I'm over here with somebody who really influenced what I'm doing with this boxing thing and in life. And also, I gotta say it, part of the dream team, the best coaching staff in the business, in my humble opinion, or not so humble opinion, Denard Trapp.
Yeah.
So, Coach Trapp, this is the Champion Mindset Podcast. So my first question would be to you is, what are you trying to champion in your life, and how does that correlate to what you're doing here at Gleason?
Well, when you champion life, you live how you live how you want to present yourself to everybody. People don't know you, but being consistent and being on time and being respectful is what I want to project to people, and that goes in boxing and everything else in life. It all correlates.
That's what's up, Coach. So what got you into boxing, and what makes you continue to box to this day? Because you're still sharp. I got in the ring with you the other day, man. I can't even lie. You whooped me. So what's up?
Well, I mean, it's just where I grew up. I grew up in Asbury, Neptune, New Jersey, and all my life, growing up like most people my age, Muhammad Ali was there, and I had a brother-in-law, Freddie Boynton, who boxed. So I was able to get into the gym and, up in Middletown, PAL, and compete. So it wasn't on the street. It was, other kids like playing basketball and football. I like fighting. So that's what I was doing. Y'all want to fight, I bet y'all can beat everybody out here. And, you get in a couple of fight scuffles and you get good at it. And then once you start competing, then I had to start making them pay to get beat up. It was like, get beat up and I got to run your pocket.
That's what's up, Coach. So, obviously, me, I'm a street brawler myself, but there's a huge difference between fighting in the streets and learning the discipline of boxing, and you're one of the most technical and, disciplined boxers that I've seen in there, and disciplined coaches that I've seen in there. So, how did that translate, that street brawler mentality to boxing?
Well, when you do it a lot and you like it, you don't feel the same stress. And being young and naive at the time when I was doing it, it was just like, it was something I liked doing. Like kids like playing basketball and football. Even though I played that, basketball and football, I wasn't that good in basketball, and I was all right in football. I had a scholarship, but I didn't want to go through the hard work of going to college. So I joined the Army with other boxers that I knew, like Lauren Ross, who was a great boxer, won the national several times. Back in the day, I was with, we had a team, that I look at, and we had Brian London. These people you can look up, they're in the record books. Brian London, Eddie Cook, WBC, WBA champion. I had Al Cole, Ice Cold. Those people, I had Bruce Baldwin. These people were great boxers that was already, the Army had, like, between Fort Hood and Fort Bragg had the best boxers, and we had sprinkles from people in Europe that was kind of good as well. That was Ray Mercer, came from Europe. And so when you got in the ring, you didn't get in with no bum. Everybody wanted to have that spot and keep their spot. So you fought hard and be persistent and consistent. So I took my street skill, brought them into the ring, as far as boxing in New Jersey, and then I joined the Army, and then I got to train with the best, and that was my theory. If I get to train with the best, I can become the best, and it worked out for me.
I agree with that philosophy wholeheartedly, and I feel like that philosophy is what translates to this gym right here, and not only just in boxing but in life. You want to surround yourself with the best. You want to surround yourself with people who push you to be better than you were yesterday. And that's what's going to lead into my next question. How would you say the mentality that you took into the ring translated to your mentality in fatherhood?
Well, that's just in life. Like I said, everything you're doing in life is circled around your well-being, mental and physical. And the point is, a lot of times, the way you express yourself is your demeanor, your action, You know, some people who's antsy and they're box like that. People who's anxious and who undisciplined, who don't show up on time. A lot of times they box that way. But what boxing does for me, you know, not for everybody, but for most people, it helps you focus and center your energy to what you're trying to accomplish. And that's what the Army helped me do too. You know, the Army tell you what you have to get done. They don't tell you how you have to do it. So, you know, when you have to traverse something or overcome something, they just give you a mission. And your job is to, you know, can accomplish the mission. Now, as individual soldiers, your job is to get back home, make it back home to your family. But you got to accomplish your mission. So you're very studious and very detailed. You know, you very pay attention to detail to get the job done. So and that translates to boxing. And like I said, life is a full circle. So when you go out in the street, you carry yourself a certain way. You be very attentive to what's going on around you, and that way things won't come to you by surprise. You're always someone on alert.
Awesome. So Coach, I asked Coach Mike this, and I have to ask you this. In your perspective, do you have to be a boxer to be a great coach?
Well, no, and that's a lot of things. It's rare, but a lot of times, you know, a lot of champions and people who become champions make terrible coaches. And the reason why they make terrible coaches is because they did it so effortlessly. They think everybody got the ability they had. They might have tremendous power, but you can't teach power. They might have tremendous speed. You can't teach speed. Those people who does well or do well with the minimum speed, the minimum power, but got technical skill, they make the better coaches because they realize what they had to go through to get to where they got. Where a guy with speed, everybody got the speed. No, you got the speed. You're a phenomenon. Or if you got power, you're knocking everybody out when you hit them like a Mike Tyson. You know, not necessarily they'll be a bad coach, but the point is they won't make leeway for a person, the average man, and they're not average. So those people like a Sugar Ray Leonard, Hitman Hearns, you know, those people aren't average. They're above the average scale on physical agility and ability, or, you know, ring IQ. You know, Ali. You know, Ali was a cheat code. He had everything. He had endurance. He had speed. He had stamina. He can take a punch. I mean, that's a cheat code. You had to beat him on all different levels to just get a win. That's why he was able to last so long and become so great. The average man don't have that. So average man have one or the other. He had everything. He had speed, agility. He could take a punch, can give a punch. He had endurance. So, you know, those are rare and a rare lifetime thing. You know, you might see a person like that every 100, 200 years.
So when it comes to a fighter, and you highlighted different strengths, and like certain people are like phenomenons in certain areas. How do you balance, you know, really emphasizing what their gifts are while plugging in the holes of the stuff that they might be weak at?
Well, and that's the importance of life and taking life lessons. Because if you are a person who's desired to learn things, you'll pick those things up. But if you're an arrogant person and you've been getting along by using your speed or using your power, you know, there's gonna be somebody, everybody can't get knocked out. Some people can take a punch, and then if you don't got no, because you don't run because you used to knock anybody out. You said normally in the first round I knock them out, so I'm not gonna really train, run hard, or work the bag hard, because once I catch them, I'm gonna knock them out. But when they meet that person who can take their punch, can throw a good punch back, then now you're in the middle ocean. Ain't no life rafts out there. Ain't no life raft. Only one other person in the ring. And that's the referee with stripes counting 1, 2, 3, counting you out or giving you 8 count. So if you don't heed the warning of doing the proper training, you know, train, do the thing that you're taught, because a good coach is going to teach you all every aspect of the sport. but he's going to emphasize what you do best. You know, he's going to get you to fight your fight and not let your opponent fight their fight. And that's what it's about. It's focus on what you do well and maximizing it and forcing your opponent to fight your fight, not let them fight their fight.
Okay then, Coach. So, obviously, you know, you had a lot of success in your amateur career, but as a coach, you know, a testament to your success is your ability to bring the best out of your son, who has been able to box even at the Olympic level. He started with no fights, just doing the same drills that we're doing over here, and now he's boxing at the Olympic level. What do you think it was that he brought to the table when it came to, you know, maybe natural ability, but mentality-wise, what do you think is pushing him from level to level to level?
Well, you know, again, you know, he lived in a house, so we got to talk a lot more. We get into arguments just like every parent gets with their kid about certain things, and explain to them why to do certain things that I can't talk to another man's child like that or someone else, but I can talk to my son a certain way and tell him, and then as he see it come to fruition, what I tell him, then he come back and say, oh, now I see what you're talking about. I said, you know, and basically, you know, a good coach, you know, and a good fighter, the fighter got to trust the coach, and the coach got to be above board. You know, sometimes you got to blow some smoke up your butt to make you believe you're something more than you are, but more than likely, we're going to tell you what's right and what's wrong, and how to get your head out the way of a punch so you can counter. Now, sometimes you don't have a quick enough reflex, so we got to alter or change the style or change something to make you be able to do it to offset the person you're fighting. But, you know, like I said, every fighter got their own ability, and you want to maximize their ability, and hopefully they grow with experience. So, not necessarily you tell them everything what to do each time, that they'll be able to pick up and see and go into different modes of boxing. Sometimes you want to teach them to stand toe to toe. Sometimes you want them to move off, you know, keep the head offline. So when a person throws a punch, he moves his head offline and come back and counter. And what you're trying to do, the key thing of most boxers, most coaches, or my thing is to make a person not throw their jab. Make the person lose faith in their jab, because a lot of times they can't land the jab. It's hard to land any other punch.
Okay, Coach. So I feel like one of the most impressive aspects of your coaching career and the entire coaching staff is the fact that out of all of the champions that came out of this gym, only one of them really was under the age of 20. All of us were quote unquote late starters. So what is it about your coaching style that you feel is able to create champions out of people who started way after most people?
Well, the point is desire and getting into their mindset. Because, you know, if you start late, it's a reason why you started late. It could have been you were doing other things in life, and now you came to awakening and you came to the sport. Now, coming to the sport and you know you're starting late and you're behind the 8 ball, you got a certain amount of time. You're more dedicated to learn the skills and follow what's told to you. And you have to have some faith in the coach. If you listen to the coach and go forward with what the coach said, we get more success. You know, being a civilian compared to being in the Army, where Army, that's your job when you box. Just like most of these other countries we fight, their job is to box. They don't have really professionals, most of these other countries. And so, you know, it's hard to get the kids surrounded and immersed in boxing like the other countries we compete against. But if the kids, you know, they got a lot of distraction, video games, friends hanging out at the mall, so forth. But when a kid comes in the gym and he really wants to learn, he absorbs this like a sponge. Mm-hmm. You know, he like fish in water. And it's easy to talk to him. And if you get time to really sit down and talk to him and talk about, you know, what they're doing right, what they're doing naturally, what they're, you know, what we can develop and what we can see. But different people learn at different speeds at different levels. Some people, want to sit there and bang it out, and they don't see nothing wrong with banging it out. But some people don't like getting hit, but love the box, and so we got to teach them how to be out the way of be out of range of getting hit, and be close enough to effectively win. Because some people, are just good amateur boxers, and probably will never be professional boxers. And some people are better professional boxers and terrible amateur boxers because they take too many shots. They throw effective punches that might hurt somebody, but if they don't knock them out, they lose on points. And that's the difference between an amateur boxer and a professional boxer. Amateurs is more, more punches land, the better, in the scoring area. Where professional is more effective punches. So although you can hit me with 20 jabs, I'll hit you overhand right, and you stumble, I'm winning. If I'm getting hit in professional, and you hit me with 100 jabs, and jabs ain't doing nothing to me, and I'm walking through them, I hit you with the right hand, you stumble, I'm winning that round. In amateur boxing, those 20 punches, and I hit you with one punch, I'm losing. So styles, when they say styles make fight, and that's why Mike Tyson was such a good professional, but he was a poor amateur. He didn't go to the Olympics. Tyrell Biggs beat him in the Olympics twice. And but when they fought as a professional, he stopped him in I think 4th round. See, so that's what you have in the difference between amateur and professional. But I mean, some people are good in both of them. Like Ward was a good amateur and professional. Sugar Ray Leonard was a good amateur and professional. Hitman Hearns was a good amateur. But some of these guys, they were on a national level, but they didn't go to the Olympics. Like Sugar Ray went to the Olympics. Tyson didn't go to the Olympics. He lost in the box-up because he had a professional style in the Olympics sport, where Tyrell Biggs threw a lot of punches, frequently tie you up, break, separate you. Where in professional, they tell you box or fight your way out. And Sugar Ray Leonard had quick hand speed, and he was a dominant puncher, but he was pretty quick. And he went to go, he was able to use his style to go to the Olympics. Hearns was knocking people out in amateurs too. He was a 139 pounder. He was knocking people through the rope, but he didn't go to the Olympics either. But his was kind of, his timing, every 4 years it was, and he didn't have time to really make Olympics. His birthday came different, so that's what the difference. But there's a lot of factors that get you to Olympics and get you in the right spot to make it to Olympics. Smile, Sugar Ray Leonard had a smile. His perception, where you from, right place, right time, the right wind, right time. So it's a lot of factors.
Yeah, like a shining example of that is Terrence Bud Crawford. He wasn't on the Olympic squad, and he went on to have a 3-time undisputed. It speaks for itself.
Right.
So, and he's more of a counter-punching, brawling type,
Right.
So like maybe a lot of those punches that are super effective in the pros, maybe they might not have been scoring those in the amateurs.
Right.
So I can see what you're saying when it comes to that. But I will say that most fighters that do have success in the amateurs and get to that Olympic level, they usually become world champions, at least from our program. You know what I mean?
Well, most, but it was a couple of flops. It was a couple of flops, and it's rare, but it's a couple of flops that was gold medalists and didn't become world champion. I mean, a good friend of mine, Andrew Maynard, and he was a beast, 178. I sparred him. He was a gold medalist at light heavyweight, and Sugar Ray took him and signed him and tried to get him to fight like Sugar Ray, but he wasn't a Sugar Ray kind of fighter. He was, threw a lot of punches, being there and beat you down. But and he had a pretty good chin, but he didn't. He didn't become champion as a professional. He was a gold medalist, and that's the year that all Army guys won. It was Kenny McKinney, Andrew Maynard, and Mercer. They were 3 gold medalists in the Olympics.
Yeah.
And Kenny McKinney, he became world champion. But there's a lot of factors that goes into making a good champion.
Because conversely, like we have guys like, I don't know if you saw Benavidez, he fought over the weekend, right? He only had 12 amateur fights. I have more amateur fights than that. But has how many, like he turned professional when he was probably a teenager, and now he has over 30 professional fights and hasn't lost any of them.
Right.
So, how do you feel about that route? People who have very limited amateur experience go the professional route and are able to get success that way.
Well, the reason why, because they had good fundamentals, good chin, he threw a lot of punches, he got a good side as height and everything. So you can see he moved all the way up to cruiserweight. He started at 154, I think.
Dang.
Yeah, he started at 154. Now he fought cruiserweight. So, so he had, when he started out, he got a good chin. He had good endurance. He threw a lot of punches. That's how he beat the guy this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
The guy threw 3 hard punches. Then he came up with 6 flurry of punches, 6, 7, 8 punches, 9, and he throwing good power to him.
Mm-hmm.
So just because you hit a guy with 1 punch hard, 2 punch hard, and you get tired and want to hold, and the guy hits you with some body shots, go to your body head, you understand? That won the fight. Not only they might not recognize it as being hard, but as you wearing down and you start backing off those punches and then he drops you, they can't deny you beating them. No punches are hurting. Yeah. After a while, they start realizing, the first round I gave it to the other guy, maybe I shouldn't have given it to him. The second round I shouldn't have given it, but at the end of the day, you get rid of the judges by knocking the guy out like he did.
It's true. That's true. So Coach, you have a fighter, right? He has no particular talent whatsoever, right? You want to turn him into a champion. What is the skills that every fighter should learn if they want any hope of being a great fighter?
Well, the first thing is if he had no outstanding skills whatsoever, hopefully he had a good chin. So that's not really a talent that either you have or you don't. Next thing I would want to do is get him endurance. Endurance meaning get him his feet, be able to move, be able to throw punches nonstop. That's one thing. And see, because it's better to have punches, stamina and be able to throw a lot of punches and don't need them than to need them and don't have them. Because a lot of guys get caught up in a situation where they're in a shootout in a fight, and all of a sudden they get tired and they start going backwards. Once you start going backwards, you're starting to lose. Or you got to figure out something how to step around this guy, make the guy throw punches, and then make him pay. And that's what I was used to doing amateur. I used to high punch output, throw a lot of punches, make him throw punches, and make him pay when he missed. And I had a pretty good chin. So when I did frequently get hit or whatever, I was able to recover quick because I was in shape from running in the miles. And that's what the running do, and the jumping rope and hitting the bag consistently build that back muscle up. So even if you didn't punch hard, if you hit consistently, you'll win fights. I don't care if you're professional or amateur, because a scoring blow is a scoring blow. Now, you might not affect this guy because the guy could have a chin of steel. I know people who can take all the punches they want. They ain't gonna have a long career, but the point is, they'll be there. So you gotta be able to the body. You gotta be diverse on your punch selection. Headshot, body shot, slowing them down. You gotta understand what each punch do to a person, or how it affects you. Because some people got poker face when you hit them, and it look like it ain't have no effect. But then eventually they'll drop. So you gotta be consistent with what you're doing.
Yes, sir. So, a lot of different coaches have a lot of varying philosophies when it comes to the balance between drilling your fighter and sparring. What's your philosophy on sparring, and how often should a fighter be sparring, and how often should they be drilling and working on their skills in comparison to sparring?
Well, see, that's a really tough one, because I know some people don't believe in sparring at all. There's a couple of professionals that don't believe sparring at all. They say they don't get hit, they don't get paid for it. So they don't spar at all. I know people like that. I think some sparring is required. But it really depends, what level you're in. Because if you're amateur, if they want to be somewhere and be at the camps and stuff like that, they got to spar. If they don't want to spar, they stay home. And but once you become turned professional, you're the boss really. And becoming the boss, that means you gotta set in motion certain things. And if you're not winning, you won't be a professional for long. But if you're winning with the style you're doing, you can do it as long as you win. And that's one thing. If you're only good as the last fight, that's how professional it is. If you get knocked out, you're not champion no more. You're a contender. But if you're winning and you keep winning and you're champion, whatever you say goes. Because you haven't proved what you're doing is wrong. So that's how boxing goes. So it's a lot of factors to go into it, but winning is the key factor.
So I asked my uncle this from a promoter perspective, but from a coaching perspective, boxing as a sport, it's still popular, but it's not as popular as it used to be when you were boxing, for sure. What do you think is missing from the sport that's keeping it from being the number one sport that it always was?
Well, in all actuality, it's one of the top sports, but the point is, since they got so many belts, the best aren't fighting each other. And not only the best ain't fighting each other, it's hard to get kids off the video games that want to compete and refurbish or replenish the lighter weight class or the younger boxers. It used to be more boxers when people wanted to box, and you had more competitive fights. But it's not as competitive because it's not as many boxers. But at the national level, it's pretty good, and it's good crowd, but there's not enough promotion and notification of fights. Because I think some of the football fields, like in Red Bank, I think they should have a boxing match there. I think a lot of people come out there to see it. I think a lot of people come and pay, and there'll be a lot of hot dogs sold, a lot of good fights going on. And I think when you have big events like that, you'll get the eyes and the hopes and the dreams of a lot of kids to come see it. So then you get more boxers. So it's just being more dedicated with yourself. It's more things to compete against. You got, car racing. You got people with bikes, doing bike stunts. You got people playing video games. So, if you get them kids away from the video games and you get more motivation and more people watching the sport, you get more participants of the sport, because everybody wants to be in the spotlight.
I agree with you 100%, Coach. Like, from my perspective, boxing should be the easiest thing to promote in the world. It should be easier to promote than like a sandwich. Like it's a fight,
Right. Well,
who doesn't want to stand and watch a good fight? If I'm walking down the road right now and I see a couple people fighting, I'm gonna stay and watch that. I'm gonna take out my camera, and that's probably going viral. It's probably gonna go more viral than this interview, to be honest. Right. If I took out my camera and recorded two people just randomly fighting, looking like terrible.
Right, but because everybody want to see the outcome and want to see who get the big shots and who get knocked out, and that's what most people do. Most people want, and like I said, so it's not that not a lot of people want to see it. It's just it's not as promoted because it's not as big, because they got so many other sports and diversity of things. Like I said, video games and everything else. So I think if they have more promotion, it'll be more people wanting to do the sport, because more people want the accolades and the limelight.
Do you feel like MMA is kind of taking away from the crop of boxers coming up?
No, I don't think so. MMA is a very, I think it's a difficult sport and very complex. But the problem with MMA is not really calibrated where you're moving up based on the people you fight. I can wake up, or I can go into saying I want to be an MMA fighter, and they look at me, oh, you boxed, you had a good record. They put me up in there with somebody who probably break my leg,
Yeah.
you know, and you know, or you know, I can probably knock it out because I didn't train a lot of MMA fighters, and they really don't have that good of hand skills. They're most of them come from wrestling background and karate background. So a lot of times when I was in Texas, I trained a lot of MMA fighters, and you know, they learn how to do the hand. They're very impressed with the hand work. That's what they try to do. But first thing they try to do, if you can box or whatever, they try to take you to the ground because they know you don't have the leverage. But you know, a good boxer who knows things, like a Mike Tyson or a guy who works inside, you know, when they grab you, your one hand will be loose, and that can do a lot of damage to an MMA fighter.
Yeah, and I noticed the most successful MMA fighters are the ones that, you know, used to box or still box, you know, incorporate boxing in their training and have that punch, you know what I mean? If they have sharp technique, that ba-ba, you know, they're doing damage in the UFC. You know, this guy, Tapora, Conor McGregor had a lot of success. Even Iceman, Chuck Liddell, he had that one looping right hand, and he was icing people with that. So I feel as though boxing translates in MMA, and I feel like both sports can coexist and benefit from one another. Because I see a lot of boxers, you know, talking a lot of junk about MMA fighters and vice versa, not really mutual respect between the two sports. But I feel like they're two different sports that each deserve their respect.
Well, I think they each deserve their respect, but MMA is not founded on good principles, meaning pay scale wise.
Yeah.
These guys, you know, do a lot of work. I respect the hard work and dedication. You know, the legs, the chin, every part of their body get injured, and they don't get paid the big bucks. Where a good boxer who went up the right chain and got 30 fights and so forth, and they can fight for about $1 million, $2 million, $3 million. You know, $10 million. Where MMA, if they get $1 million, they're doing pretty good.
Yeah. That's at the top level, like championship level. And even most championship fights, they're making like $200,000-300,000.
Right.
You know, if they win.
Right.
You know, they have it in the clause. They make their purse if they win. You know, if they lose, they're not getting the same.
Right. They probably get $100,000.
You know, so Dana White having it under one umbrella really cuts through the amount of pay that they're able to get.
Not really, and that's the problem with boxing nowadays. Back when I was boxing initially, you know, you had a guy who signed you if you was good, and they sign you. You get people who promote you. A couple of professionals or millionaires get together and they support you, or you try to do it on your own. But it was money at the end. If you got 10 fights or 15 fights in and you're undefeated, now you start to make money. With MMA, like you said, one person, and it's not a lot of outside promotion for you. Like today, a lot of people don't, you know, it's hard to get a signed contract nowadays because there's too many other ways that you can make money off the internet. People could be paying you money off the internet, or they want to see your fight, or you can become a whatever they call them, internet star, and then everybody want to go to your fight for whatever reason, and you can have 100 losses. For some reason, they like the way you lose, and you still getting paid. So there's always ways to get paid because of the internet. And so a lot of promoters don't want to really sign guys unless these guys, you know, really dragged it out in boxing, amateur. And now they got to have 6 and 7 national championships compared. When I was boxing, you had 2 national championships because there was so many people boxing. You was good if you won 1 national championship. But nowadays, you know, they got national championships, like they have 4 national championships a year. You know, so like when I was boxing, it was the National Golden Glove and the USA Boxing. There was only national championships. And now they had a Western trials and an Eastern trials, and you couldn't do them both because normally it was going on at the same time, and it was only the top 4 in the nation. Sometimes either the Western trial had the top 4 or the Eastern trial had the top 4, or 2 on each side. So it really, it wasn't nothing. And then they started calling it the Olympic Festival, and they got rid of the Eastern and Western trial, and they just had one where the top 4 in the nation, the Olympic Festival was there. And, so you had the National USA Boxing, you had the Golden Gloves National, and they had the Olympic Festival. And those was the only 3 national championships. Well, I wouldn't even call the Olympic Festival the national championship because it was the top 4 in the nation. But the Golden Glove National and the USA Boxing National was only 2 national championships. And now they got, I think, like 8 national championships every year.
Okay.
So when somebody talking about, well, I'm a 4-time national champion, that can happen in 1 year.
Yeah, that is true. That is very true. So, speaking of developing champions, you're as committed as any coach that I've seen, coach. And honestly, I see you in here so much. There's times where I think, like, does he stay here overnight? Like, does he just have like a bag that he just goes to and just sleeps here? Like, man, like you are just locked in. You are locked in. How did you come across this gym, and what is it about the gym and this community that has you so committed?
Well, initially, I was going through legal stuff as far as with my house and everything, and my son wanted to box. Out of the blue, he wanted to box, and so he's seen some of my videos of me boxing and so forth. So I was looking around for a gym. So I went up to Middletown Boxing PL, and they closed that gym down. And then so I went to Asbury and looked around. I didn't really like Asbury, even though I grew up in Asbury. Then they had the output or the motivation in Asbury. So he lived in Tenton Falls. So I found this gym here. I came up and Coach Karen was here working out. It was on a Friday, and I was like, I'm looking for a gym to join. She told me to come back Monday, and then from there, I worked with a couple of guys. Worked with my son Tyreek for about a month and a half, and he kept every time we kept trying to get a fight going, something would happen. A car accident or this happened or that happened. So it took about 6 months for me to really get him where I think he needed to be. But in between time, while I was there, I helped other people, and it was a nice gym, nice setup, and it was a place that it was a nice, calm place. It wasn't too much people coming in just to do nothing. It was people here with a purpose. So I liked that. So that's why I grew roots here.
That's what's up, Coach. So my last question to you would be this: for any young fighter that would want to come in here and start boxing, what are the main aspects that differentiate somebody who goes in here and just is essentially wasting time, and somebody who goes on to be a champion and just a great fighter?
Well, first thing I tell everybody, if you like boxing, you don't necessarily have to be the guy in the ring. There's a lot of aspects of the boxing game. You can be a coach, you can be a trainer, you can be a cut man. So you don't necessarily have to be the one in the ring. You can be the one wrapping hands. So there's a lot of skills that you can still, if you like boxing, you can be around boxing and be a part of the boxing scheme, but you necessarily have to be the guy in there. But it's good to know how to throw a good punch, if you did other things, or cut, or different things. So just because you're not the boxer, don't mean you can't be in the gym with and observing the guys, looking at how they train. What's a good training? What's a good jab? What's a good right hand? Looking out, well, this guy can't throw this punch, that guy can't throw this kind of punch. He fights this way. How can I make him a better fighter? because everybody is not cut. It's not a cookie cutting thing. Everybody got their own proclivities to do certain things. So it's just, coming to the gym, work out. Everybody need to work out, do some calisthenics or whatever, and then you can, learn how to wrap hands. If you're a good person who know how to wrap hands, some people might like you wrap hands. You can wrap everybody's hands. They like you for that. Or, you're a good hype man. Get somebody right to throw punches, motivate them to hit the bag. So, like I said, you necessarily don't have to be the boxer yourself. You can be a self-motivator. You can be a trainer. You can be a coach. You can be a fitness instructor. There's a lot of or you can be a cut man. There's a lot of things you can be a corner man. There's a lot of things in boxing you can do other than get in the ring and be the actual boxer. That's all. So be motivated that way.
Alrighty, everybody. On that note, I'm signing off. This is Don John over here with Denard Trapp, Coach Trapp. Thank you for being on the Champion Mindset podcast. And I had to cut this at some point. This is my longest interview. Look at it. It's 41 minutes. I said 30, Coach. Alrighty, everybody. We good. You have a blessed day, everybody.